Here we are. Welcome everybody to the Sinclair Method Q&A session. We are so happy to be here with you. It's been a little while since Samara and I have done this because I think last month I was out of town. So I'm excited to be here with you, Samara. And we're both here just to really serve you all, everyone who's joining us now and will join as the live goes on. So just welcome to everybody who's here. We're streaming on YouTube and we should be streaming on Instagram and Twitter, assuming that the technology connected, but so great to be here with you all. So this next hour is really a chance for you to bring your Sinclair Method questions to us, and we will do our best to answer them. Samara and I both have personal experiences with the Sinclair Method and Naltrexone. Samara has a really interesting backstory before TSM, spending a lot of time in AA and really struggling with alcohol for many, many years. She's older than she looks, so she's got a lot of history there, and I think that makes her I meant that as a compliment, by the way. like people look at you and you're like, how could you struggle with alcohol for 20 years? But
25 years, actually 27 years. I say 25 years because 2 of those years I was like in and out of sobriety.
Okay.
But it's actually like 27 years
Wow.
because I actually consider sobriety back then it was just white knuckling it anyways. So it wasn't considered like the freedom that I have now. Right.
Exactly. And that's like a huge part of your story. And it's interesting because you have the experience in kind of traditional abstinence and what that feels like versus being free from alcohol through TSM, which we haven't caught up in a while, but I think you still drink on occasion, but it's pretty rare nowadays, but you still enjoy it if I'm not mistaken, which we can talk more about.
I do.
Okay, you do. So yeah, this is really a chance for you all to ask us your Sinclair Method questions. You can drop them in the comments section, wherever you are. I will try to get to them all. And just a quick, Samara and I are not doctors. We are Sinclair Method coaches. Samara is a certified Sinclair Method coach, and we have personal experience with the method. Samara also is your certified health and wellness coach as well. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you incorporate more like a holistic approach to helping people with TSM.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're here to answer your questions about TSM. We'll speak from our personal experience, but we can't give medical advice around like naltrexone and things like that. But we'd be happy to share from our personal experience because we're both pretty open with that. So I think that's everything. As we kick things off, welcome to everyone who has joined us. If you have questions for us, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we will do our best to get to them. It's so awesome to have you all here. It looks like, yeah, okay, we've got people on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. So cool. All right, I see we have our first question from Sarah. Welcome, Sarah. So you ask, is the point of the Sinclair Method to be completely abstinent from alcohol or cut back and drink occasionally? Great question. Samara, would you like to take this one? And then I can add anything after you share.
Of course. Yes. So the answer to that question is basically what do you want for your life? I mean, I love the fact that alcohol is not a forbidden fruit for me, and for many of our members at Thrive and other people who do the Sinclair Method. It doesn't have to be a forbidden fruit anymore, which is, kind of like what the abstinence mindset is all about. And so we don't have to have that all or nothing thinking anymore. We can enjoy it, when we want, if we want, but most of the time, I just don't ever want to anymore.
Yeah.
So, and I know that's like Katie as well, because I've heard your story so many times, Katie. And yeah, so it really is up to you, and the funny thing about the Sinclair Method is that when I was first starting out, I couldn't even fathom thinking about my future without alcohol. I couldn't do it. And I didn't have to anymore.
Yeah.
And so I took all of that pressure off of myself and I just allowed myself to go through this healing journey, which is what it became.
Yeah.
And over time, my identity started to shift around alcohol and what it meant for me in my life. And that ended up causing me to shift my values towards the end of TSM. And so then I didn't value alcohol as much as I used to. And so it just became something that I did less and less frequently until now, like 3 years later, I drink like 4 times a year, like
Yeah.
I have
And
maybe 1 or 2 glasses of wine 4 times a year, maybe, if that.
so someone's asking on that topic, you said you drink on occasion. Do you enjoy it, or does the naltrexone stop the enjoyment? That's their question.
That's a really good question. It's so subjective, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like I do kind of enjoy it, but at the same time, the last time I had wine on vacation, and I remember checking in with myself while I'm very compliant. So I take my medication an hour before I'm going to drink, if I'm going to drink. Right. And I just remember checking in with myself and saying, like, I don't even need to be drinking this right now. Like, it's not doing anything for me other than making me part of the group because the rest of them are drinking wine. And so I'm drinking wine too. But like, I was able to just sip it more daintily instead of like in the past where I was so focused on the drink that I had in my hand and how fast I was drinking it, basically. And so now that's not the case anymore. I can sip it and I can enjoy myself
Yeah.
in the activity because the taste is still good. I mean, it's just not fulfilling any kind of need that it used to in me when I used to turn to alcohol. So that I just want to say this is kind of advanced stuff that I'm talking about, and this is stuff that really starts to occur towards this. I would say towards the second half of the TSM journey, because that's when you can really focus on habits and coping and all the things that we talk about at Thrive.
Yeah.
We really dive into that stuff. So if this seems a little advanced, I'm sorry. It's just you. It was a difficult question because it's like, do I still enjoy it? But it's like I do, but I don't. Like I don't need it, but I would still enjoy a glass if I want to. But it's not like I have to have it. But you know what I mean? Like it's more like
Totally.
I'm being part of a social time with others instead of like I need to have this and I need to put it down, and I need to
Yes.
feel different right away. And no, it's none of that. Right.
You hit on something uh, that was really important, and I think it's that identity shift. Like, I think pre-TSM, maybe you can relate. I enjoyed drinking for the buzz. I was constantly chasing that buzz. I didn't care if I was drinking cheap wine, cheap beer, vodka. I just like wanted to drink it as quickly as possible to
Yeah.
get that feeling of the buzz as quickly as possible. And through TSM, I feel like when we do this protocol correctly and we give it enough time to work and we're changing our habits, questioning, like, what role do I want alcohol to play in my life, finding other ways to cope. It's like we enjoy drinking in a different way. Like we're not drinking to get drunk anymore or to escape or chase that endless buzz. We're drinking, like you said, because it's a Friday night and you're out to pasta with friends and you want to order a glass of wine or whatever, and you enjoy it, you sip on it, you're not gulping it for the buzz. It's simply to pair the wine with the pasta, which, like, before TSM, and maybe if people are brand new, they can't even fathom that yet. But
Mm-mm.
just take heart that the longer you're on the medicine and the more repetition you have drinking on it, it's like it works better and better, especially if, and really only if, you're also, like we always say at Thrive, meeting the medicine halfway. So you're working to gradually change habits, set goals, have alcohol free days. And again, this is all best done gradually. It's not something you have to force and be perfect at day one. We typically tell people to give it a year so that there's this reasonable expectation of, like, okay, this is going to take time to change this very ingrained habit of my, drinking habits or rituals that I've been doing for years or decades. So just wanted to kind of piggyback on that.
Yeah. So well said.
Okay, so we have a question on Instagram, which it's not coming through on the
Mm.
comments you're seeing, Samara. So I just wanted to read it because it's a great question for you, and I can, of course, add to it. He says, "Hey guys, I've been having a ton of nausea. I drink about once a week and have been taking the meds when I drink. I've tried eating before taking the meds. I've tried taking 25 milligrams and I'm still nauseous." So I know, Samara, you really struggled with Sinclair or with naltrexone side effects. What would you say to that? I know you used an over-the-counter anti-nausea medication. What else would you say was helpful for you? And something I will say too is, for you, I know the side effects went away. So that's something like, if someone, in my view, can kind of endure, maybe talk to their doctor about changing the dose, maybe reducing it even more, having a full meal, hydrating, all of that. But I know that's part of your story, is you really had NAL side effects. So what more would you say to that?
Yeah, such a good topic, because I see this a lot. And I was able to learn ways to mitigate it completely, so I didn't have to suffer through that. One thing that I learned, and this is like, of course, you got to talk to your doctor, because I can't give you medical advice, but I learned that the medication was dehydrating. And so I was drinking, with on top of it, which was also double dehydrating, right? So, and that also caused nausea. So I learned to drink or take the medicine with a large glass of water, like 16 ounces. Like, I mean, I downed a huge glass of water before I took the medicine. And that made a huge difference for me. And then I also learned the more that I ate, the bigger the meal that I ate before I took the medication, the better off I was, and I didn't have those side effects. And then I also took the over the counter anti-nausea. So I was kind of attacking it from all different ways. And then, those side effects tended to be initial. So they did subside over the course of time, and like a few weeks, and it was done. Now, as far as the dosage, like for me, my doctor had me going down a dose. Like I started lower, even lower than the 25 milligrams.
Okay.
And then I guess my body is very sensitive to naltrexone. So I just started lower, and he had me working up to finally, when I got to the full dose, I stayed at the full dose, because I knew that that's what my brain needed to eradicate the addiction. So I stayed there for months. I made sure that I didn't lower again. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And if you look at the research, like you said, Samara, the research all shows that usually for most people, side effects occur in the beginning and they tend to go away when someone adjusts to the medicine. Now, anecdotally, I've heard people say they never adjusted, and there's a percentage of people that just can't tolerate it ever. But to your point, I think as a coach, what I've seen with people is, if they are eating that full meal, having that tall glass of water with the medicine, trying maybe an over-the-counter anti-nausea, like you use Dramamine, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And there's other ones out there. There was one called Nausine, or I think it still exists, that one of my clients was using from like Amazon or something. And when you took that over-the-counter anti-nausea, did you take it with naltrexone?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you took them together.
Yeah, I actually learned that I would take it like 10 minutes before. This is how much I was tweaking the whole process. But if I took it 10 minutes before I took the naltrexone, it would go much better.
Okay. So you took the anti-nausea a little bit before the Nal. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. See,
Yeah.
that's a great tip. Yeah, for most people, the side effects, from what I've observed, they do go away. It might take a couple of weeks, but if you can talk to your doctor about, like Samara, doing a lower dose. I've had clients whose doctor even put them on low dose naltrexone, like 4 milligrams or 8 milligrams, and gradually worked up. So there's definitely strategies, and keep hope, because like I said, most people do adjust. I had a client, or a member in our program recently, who he realized that taking the medicine with a full glass of water was what he needed to do. And so he was doing that consistently. Then randomly one day he just didn't have the water, and he popped the pill with like a tiny bit of water, and the nausea was there. So for him, like, he had to do that full glass of water, but that's like simple, a tall glass of water with the medicine, no big deal. It prevents the nausea. So like you said, like all these little tweaks you're doing, like don't overlook those and keep trying different things. Talk with your doctor about different doses and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, this person says, does low dose naltrexone or LDN work, or does it have to be a specific dosage? So I actually have a video on YouTube talking about this with Dr. Vogue Pacelli, where he actually answers this exact question. If you can go find it, it was probably posted like a month or so ago. If I can recall what he said, he essentially said that potentially low dose naltrexone may prevent someone from wanting the first drink, like it will reduce their craving or urgency to have that first drink. But if and when they do have their first drink, that's probably not an adequate dose to experience the blockade of the alcohol. For those of you that don't know, the Sinclair Method protocol uses the 50 milligram tablet of naltrexone, which is what's been FDA approved for alcoholism. So that's what he shared, that it might prevent the first drink, but once you start drinking, it probably won't be enough. I have heard of people anecdotally who were on LDN for other things and found that they didn't want to drink as much, or that it impacted their drinking. So like Tamara was saying, everyone is so different, but I think generally there's a reason that, 50 milligrams is the standard dose for TSM. Anything you want to say to that, Tamara?
Yeah, that was so well put. I specifically used LDN, but it wasn't to address the drinking neural pathways in the brain. It was to mitigate the side effects from the naltrexone. So this would occur much later for me because I didn't know about LDN in the beginning, but I started to use it, and I actually do still use it.
So do I use LDN too.
Oh, you do?
I take it every day. Yeah.
Oh my
For
gosh.
other stuff. Yeah. I started it a few months ago.
And are you seeing any differences in like sleep and like inflammation? And
I was having chronic tailbone pain like for years that would just flame up and then go away. And I couldn't figure out what. I went to chiropractor and all these things. And then LDN got rid of it. Like, I'm guessing it was inflammation related. Like it hasn't.
inflammation.
Yeah.
It's a reset on it's like it helps with inflammation.
Yeah.
So
It's such a powerful medicine. So you've been on it a while as well, LDN?
well, I go on and off of it, but I have to
Okay.
tell you, like, I mean, there's times where I'm really in the habit of doing it, and then there's times like right now where I've just completely not done it for a couple months. But I actually want to start back up now that you just inspired me. Um, but yeah, the reason I would take it was to prepare myself for drinking. So let's say, because I don't take naltrexone anymore most of the year, but a few times a year I want to enjoy a glass of wine or two. So what I do is I take it in preparation for a possible time that I might drink. So usually I drink if I go on vacation. That's typically when I might drink. So I will start taking LDN like a week prior.
Okay.
Yeah, and then once I get to the day, if we do drink that day, I'm good. There's not going to be any side effects from taking the medication once in 4 months. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to build up myself up on the medicine. It's just the LDN takes care of it. It's really
Like
amazing.
it keeps your tolerance there for naltrexone.
Yeah, like you won't get, well, as far as in my case, I don't get any side effects
Okay.
from the
That's really
medication.
cool to
Yeah.
know, because that's a concern. I know for me, the less I was taking it like once a month, and sometimes I would get those side effects come back. So
Mm.
that's good to know.
Yeah, yeah. So I prepare, and even if I may not drink on vacation, it doesn't even hurt to take LDN. So if I
Yeah.
do it for a week or two in preparation for a vacation and I don't end up drinking, that's okay. I've done that before too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Welcome to everyone who has joined as well. If you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We will do our best to get to them. Brittany is asking, I just started naltrexone and I have had no side effects. That's great. My question is, should I be taking it every day at first, or just on days I only drink heavy like 3 days a week? So We're not doctors, so we can't tell you when to take medication. And to be honest, some Sinclair Method doctors do advise their patients to take it every day in the beginning, and others say only take it following the Sinclair Method, which is an hour before drinking. So I don't think there's any like correct answer necessarily, but for me personally, and Samara can speak about what she did, my doctor had me take it just following the Sinclair Method. So she said, if you're planning to drink, take the medication at least 1 hour before your first drink. So that's how I always took it. Sometimes I would take it and I wouldn't drink because plans would change or whatever. But for the most part, I only took it paired with my drinking. Now, there's going to be doctors or people out there who've taken it differently and have other opinions. And that's kind of what's cool about naltrexone. It's very versatile. Some people take it even daily and they don't drink and it helps with their cravings. So there's a lot of different ways to use it. And it's really, if you have the naltrexone, that would be a question for your doctor. If they're supportive of TSM, hopefully they would prescribe it that way. But depending where you got it, a lot of doctors don't know about TSM. So the technical on-label way to take it is like daily, in the morning or at night or something. So that doesn't exactly answer your question because we can't really speak to it, but just, yeah, I took it following TSM, which was an hour before drinking. What do you want to say to that, Samara?
Well, I just want to say to Brittany, congrats on no side effects. And I'm really excited that you're doing it, that you're following the method and that you're taking charge of this in your life. Amazing.
Yeah. It's really life-changing. This medication, it's not an instant fix. It takes time. Like I've just seen comments on social media. I see them all the time. Oh, it didn't work for me. And if I dig into it a little bit more, oftentimes they weren't taking the medicine correctly or they didn't give it enough time to work. And I'm not here to say that it's going to work 100% of the time for 100% of the people, but for most people, if you give it enough time and you follow the protocol correctly and you're meeting the medicine halfway, odds are it's going to work for you. It might take 6 months. It might take a year. It might take 2 years. We have a gal in our program who we've been on our journey basically the last year. And she was like, I wanted to be there at a year, but she's not quite there yet. But she's made so much progress this last year that like, it might take her, 16 months or maybe up to 2 years, but she's just made like amazing progress. And so just to see that, even though it's taken a while, she's a completely different person than who she was when she started.
Yeah.
So give it time. Don't rush this process. So MFL says, how did you find your why? It's a really good question. I'm assuming, why do you want to change your drinking habits? Why do you want to go on TSM? Would you like to answer that, Samara?
Yeah, that is such a good question. And we have a whole course, well, not a course, a video lesson about this on Thrive, and exercise as well on Thrive for our members. And it basically, I had a whole kind of experience with this. So this kind of question that you're asking is dear to my heart, because I ended up doing the exercise and I wrote down, like I journaled, reasons why I wanted to change my relationship with alcohol. And I actually ended up taking a few weeks and continued to add to that list. And it became this very comprehensive list of everything from like future career goals to family and to relationships and to my health and wanting to repair the damage of alcohol that alcohol had done in my body, all these things, right? And it ended up becoming a 3-page thing, like a 3 pages front and back, handwritten, of all the reasons why I wanted to change my life, why I wanted to change my relationship with alcohol. And so, but that why list ended up leading me through the process. Like on days when I felt very discouraged or felt like I wasn't making enough progress or that I had setbacks or just different things, emotions come up when we're on TSM. I was able to ground myself with this list and like look at it and remind myself why I was here, why I was doing this for me right now, right? And this list became very dear to my heart, and I still have that list. And it's like
Oh,
I almost like want to put it on the wall or something, and like remind myself of like what I went through, and yeah.
yeah.
So, anyways, that's my story with that.
And it's such a good question because it's so important because alcohol for many of us, it's a very intimate and complicated relationship with the substance. Like it might sound silly, but I feel like many of us we relied on alcohol as a coping tool, or maybe it feels like our BFF for years or decades. And so I know for me, I thought, oh, cool, I'm going to take a pill and it's going to help me drink less. And it certainly did because my desire kind of started to fade away. But as I was drinking less and craving alcohol less, so much came to the surface that I felt like I was at this crux in the road. Like, okay, I could stop taking naltrexone and kind of keep doing what I've been doing, or I can face these issues that are coming up, which is like, reasons that I was drinking that I wasn't even aware of, and
Mhm.
how much I was relying on alcohol as a coping tool, and how terrifying it was for me to think of other ways to cope, or even like, what do I do on my non-drinking days? Because I was a daily drinker for 10 years. Like, I don't even know who I am if I'm not drinking alcohol, or if I show up to a social function without a buzz. And so there's like so much inner work and healing that needs to be done on this protocol. And again, it's really done gently over time. But I think back to this person's questions about defining your why, I think that's so important to sit down and, like you said, Samara, like keeping this list that you add to over time of all of the reasons why you want to change your relationship with alcohol. There can be, fear-based reasons. Like me, my liver was hurting. I was like scared for my health. In the back of my mind, I was like, am I going to get cancer from drinking? I don't know why that was my fear, but it
Mm,
was.
mm,
And also success-based things like I want to be more engaged in life and have a career that I actually enjoy, and show up more for my friends and family and things like that. So I think we all have a ton of reasons why we want to make this change, and it's one of the first questions we ask our members in the program because it's so important to get clear, I think, on the reason why we're even doing this. Because if we don't have that defined, or something we're like remembering in the back of our mind on a daily basis, when things get tough, when we've had a crummy day and we want to just reach for alcohol because it's the easiest thing to do, we have the option to like ground into that and remind ourselves, oh yeah, like I want to make this change because of this, this, and this. And so do I really want to drink right now, or should I go for a walk and then like see if I want to drink after that or something? So I think it's such an important question to ask. And it's, I would encourage everyone who's doing TSM to get clear on the reasons why you want to make this change. And like Samara said, keep it in a list, revisit that. So you're always reminding yourself, because again, this is a long-term treatment protocol. I see this pattern so many times where the first 30, 60, 90 days, people are super motivated. They're like, oh my
mhm,
gosh, this pill's amazing. It's life-changing. I can't believe it. And then like the first honeymoon phase of the method wears off. And then that's where the work comes in. Like
mhm,
changing habits, not being someone who drinks a full bottle of wine anymore, not being someone who drinks for the buzz, and, not feeling like you need alcohol because your kids are stressing you out. Like that's a lot of change that has to happen
mhm.
over time. And the medication won't fix that. It will help you desire it less, but it's not going to give you a new evening ritual or coping skill that you learned. You've got to do that and meet the method of medicine halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah, such an
So,
important part of this healing journey for sure. Um, Brittany, I'm glad we answered your questions, and you were talking about the benefits of taking it every day. Like, what's the benefit of taking naltrexone daily versus like targeted with TSM? Again, I'm not a doctor, but I will say like the reasons that Dr. Volpicelli, our medical advisor, because he helps people in a lot of different ways with it. He'll do TSM, he'll do daily with abstinence, daily with drinking.
mm,
Um, so with daily use, some doctors put people on it daily if they are concerned with compliance, or if
mm,
they are having side effects, just so people can get in the habit of taking it and adjust to the medicine.
mm,
Some studies show that naltrexone is an anti-craving medication. So if someone's taking it daily, it might reduce their urge to drink. it could serve as an anti-craving. There's kind of like mixed feedback on that. I've heard some people report it doesn't help with cravings. And yeah, that's, I think, really like the couple of reasons why someone might want to take it daily instead of targeted. I personally, and I want to hear from you on this, Samara, I like taking it in that targeted dose because I didn't have to take the medication more than necessary. And then I loved like taking advantage of my alcohol-free days, knowing the naltrexone wasn't in my system, and being able to go do endorphin producing activities that felt really good, knowing, okay, I'm going to be getting, all of the endorphins from, this food I'm eating, or this ice cream I'm having, or this exercise I'm doing. So it really like motivated me on my alcohol-free days to go seek out other rewarding things. And I feel like that was honestly vital to my brain unlearning alcohol as the primary reward and starting to learn other things as rewards. What about you, Samara? Did you primarily do targeted, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm like you. I actually felt like it maximized the results that I got, and actually got me quicker to extinction, I would say, was because I was doing that targeted dose. Then it actually causes this really cool, there's a benefit to it. It causes like an uptick in endorphins if you give like a couple days alcohol free after that extinction session. You can experience an uptick in these endorphins in your brain. And so I actually challenged that, or I tested that theory, because I learned it from the book The Cure for Alcoholism by Dr. Roy Escapa. It's right there. So I learned about that phenomenon that occurs with the endorphins, and then I wanted to test it. So I would go out and just exercise, or go out in nature, and I would use that the 2 days after my extinction session to just exercise, to do all my my stretching and exercise and all the things. And I did notice that it was a boost in endorphins. I had much more endorphins than I would normally have, like on a normal baseline day of endorphins. And so I was like, okay, this is working. So then this was, by the way, you guys, this was towards like I would say the second half of my TSM journey, when I had a little bit more control over alcohol, and I could really plan out my extinction sessions more, and, be more intentional with, with everything. So I would do this consistently. I would have an extinction session, 2 days off afterwards, and then another extinction session and 2 days off, and really follow that protocol. And it was like, it made a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. And just for clarity's sake, when she says extinction session, we're talking about drinking on naltrexone. And we call those extinction sessions because when you drink on the medicine, you really are slowly but surely extinguishing the alcohol use disorder from the brain and working toward the end kind of goal of this treatment, which is pharmacological extinction, which, for clarity, that does not necessarily mean abstinence. Like, Samara has been at extinction for a long time now, and she still drinks. A simpler way to put it is just regained control over alcohol, whether you want to drink moderately or you want to go alcohol free. It's up to you to decide. And I know someone asked that question at the start of this call, like, is the goal of the treatment to drink moderately or to quit drinking? And what's so cool about this method is that you get to decide. And that's almost a little bit scary, because traditionally it's like the only option is quitting alcohol. And so it's very clear what, that looks like. But I would say most people who go on TSM have a goal to drink moderately. And most people get there. And some people, like me, end up just quitting alcohol sort of by accident because we become uninterested in it after a while on the method. But people can choose what their goal is, which is really cool. There's this really nice comment on Instagram I just wanted to read. He says, or she, I think it's a he, not a question, but a comment. Just wanted to thank you guys for everything you're doing. You're literally doing God's work. So that's really sweet. Thank you for the comment. Samara and I are really passionate about this because it changed our lives. We've seen it change a lot of other people's lives. So we want the word to get out, because too many people are suffering and don't know something like this exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, question for you, Samara from MFL. In what ways did you find your health improve? I know some you can measure and some are just feelings. Good question.
Yeah, great question. Oh my gosh, my health just took a turn for the better. I mean, all the ways. Number one, I lost 50 pounds.
So crazy.
Okay, so that's what happened the first year. I lost 50 pounds. My mental health improved. I was able to wean off of my antidepressants, and I am antidepressant free today. I was taking them for 20 years.
Wow. I don't think I knew that about you, Samara.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. And I mean, I gained, just so much energy and mental clarity, and the list goes on. As far as that is, the feelings part is, I felt so much better in my
Yeah.
body, mind, spirit, right? But as far as the health problems, the other thing was I had terrible acid reflux, like a really bad case of it, all through, like, for the last 15 years of my drinking, you know, and that just completely went away. It's just
Wow.
gone. Yeah.
So you think that was completely alcohol related?
I didn't know that it was, but it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'll answer that question too because it was a little bit different for me. I did have a lot of health improvements as far as like anxiety and depression. Like almost every morning, I woke up with like a pounding heart, and I just thought it was normal.
Mm.
I would also have really deep depression periods. I was never clinically diagnosed, but I would get like so depressed. And it was
Mm.
just like this roller coaster, and it caused me to rely on alcohol more for the anxiety and depression. And then the cost of drinking a lot would induce anxiety and depression. So,
Mm.
as far as benefits, I would say I noticed those two things kind of go away initially, like a little bit after I started on TSM, just by drinking less, those things like got better and better. But then I honestly didn't feel as good as I thought I was going to feel when I was like hardly drinking. I kind of had this image in my mind like, I'm going to be up at 6 a.m. and rainbows and butterflies and just like all this energy and feeling great. And I was surprised that I was like really tired and I didn't feel like the vitality of life like I thought I would. I definitely
Mm.
felt better because I wasn't hungover all of the time and putting all the alcohol in my body. But I remember just thinking like, I thought I would feel better, like not consuming as much alcohol. And I think for me, what it was is that, I know now that when we drink to excess for years and years, we deplete our body of key nutrients and minerals and vitamins. And you know this, Samara, with the certification you have, I'm sure. And so I started to really focus more on supplementation and
Mhm.
eating better quality foods, like thinking more about like what's in my foods. Not that I was
Mhm.
eating terribly before, but just being more intentional with that. And I feel like that really, really helped, like taking the right supplements and eating better and getting quality sleep. Like they're just those simple things. It started to make me feel better. And I really believe that my body was probably just deprived of certain nutrients and things because I'd been drinking for so long and I wasn't really, I would try to eat healthy and clean as often as possible, but we all know when we are hungover, all we want is like junk food or fast
Right.
food. And so I was definitely consuming that more regularly and stuff. So um, I would say it was like a longer process for me to
Mm.
like feel really good personally. But now I feel really good most days.
No, that's really cool to hear that we both have totally different experiences with that. And I feel like you've said this a lot, Katie, that you just, your body needed to recover, and you
Yeah.
slept a lot, and you said you cried a lot even.
Mhm.
I remember crying a lot too. I
Wow.
just cried a lot just because, and I was sleeping a lot too. I allowed myself to sleep. I allowed myself to mourn the relationship that I once had with alcohol. Like
Yeah.
I allowed myself to just go through these feelings once I felt comfortable feeling those feelings, right? Because
Yeah.
at first it's like really hard to feel those feelings, and then you start to practice, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's really, really interesting how that worked. But yeah, I think I would attribute the results that I got so quickly, where I was starting to feel all this energy and vitality, all this stuff, was definitely to the knowledge that I had in health and wellness. And I started applying those things pretty early on,
Okay.
around 3 months into my TSM. Yeah, about 3 months in, I started feeling better that I could now actually implement and take the supplements that I knew that I could do and do the things. And I would go to red light therapy, I'd go to cryotherapy, I'd go to the infrared sauna. I was like on this whole healing regimen of body, mind, spirit, right? And that, I think that's what caused me to kind of get better so quickly. And I saw such a drastic change very quickly that year, in my energy and my mental clarity. And I felt like a teenager again, and I wasn't hungover anymore. And I had the energy to make healthy meals, and
Yeah.
just kind of compounds on each other. And yeah, so
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, like food and supplements are fuel for our body. So if we've been putting a bunch of alcohol and junk food, I mean, that's kind of what I was doing. And I was also like burning myself to the ground because I would like try to work out and burn off all the alcohol. And then I would like go home and drink again. It was just like I was working out and doing all this stuff like out of guilt.
mm,
I would work out. I did like 5K runs hungover. Like, what good is that doing anybody, like almost wanting to throw up. It's just like I was wanted to like punish myself for drinking.
wow,
um,
yeah,
so getting out of that mindset too, like you said, the resting a lot and just being kind to myself and giving myself permission to take better care of myself. And to this person, MFL, you say, yes, I think the lack of rainbows and butterflies and feeling so tired has me questioning things.
mm,
I feel like when you look at sobriety culture, we're sold, at least I feel like I was sold this idea that it would be rainbows and butterflies. Like you see all these
mm.
Instagram posts or videos, I don't drink now, and these are 10 ways my life has improved. I'm crushing my goals. I started my business. I'm lost 100 pounds. So
Yeah,
you hear these things and you expect, but it's like, and I think that stuff comes with time. Like when we're not drunk and hungover all the time anymore, of course we're going to achieve more goals and do fun things in life and get more in tune with who we really are. But I feel like for me, it was a long-term process. It wasn't
yeah,
like as soon as the alcohol was like reduced to the point of moderate drinking, like everything was perfect. It was this process of almost like rebuilding myself. And that's not always fun. That's uncomfortable and difficult. And honestly, like I relied on alcohol to have fun and I was thinking about this today. Like I would tell myself that alcohol made me more creative. Like I would get drunk and like do creative projects. And like I think to some extent it would like, get those endorphins flowing and make me feel excited, but it was all superficial. And so it was a process of learning like pleasure and fun and creativity and all of that without needing the substance because it really wasn't, momentarily it might make me feel better, of course, but in the long run it was costing me a lot. I don't know
yeah.
if there's anything you want to say to that.
You said it so well. It really kind of was an illusion for me as well,
Mm.
especially the way that I thought that I was acting, socially. Like
Yes.
a little bit change subject, but the endorphins made me feel like uh, I was like having a lot of fun, and I was outgoing, and I was like this cool person. But in actuality, like I was kind of acting like drunk,
Yeah.
and I didn't know it. And I was like lying to myself, that
Yeah.
thinking that I was, but it was the endorphins really make us believe that we're being this kind of person, when if you saw a video, right?
Yeah.
If you saw a video of yourself, you'd be like horrified. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like I tell that to my clients, like, and myself, like I actually found a video on my phone of
Oh
me
no.
drunk, like making a video to the camera. And yeah, and I don't know if I'll ever share that, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, like I would feel so free when I was drinking. I would like go out dancing and like woo, but oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm sure. I thankfully I don't think there's any videos, but I don't want to see that ever. Yeah, it's an illusion. Like there's that book, I think it's called Alcohol Lied to Me. I never read it, but I was
Mm,
always like it's like I feel like TSM we've talked about this in the program. I wrote that article you were familiar with, like a whole new world opens up. It's
Yeah.
like alcohol has us living in this little box, this little reality where we think like our whole life revolves around it and we can't imagine life outside this little box. But like with TSM, it like gradually opens that box and you get a glimpse into life like free from AUD. Again, not necessarily not drinking, but just not having it you gripped to it. Like you have, yeah, I'll drink or maybe I won't drink, but it's just this, it starts to give you this glimpse into what life is like being completely free from AUD. And it's something that's, I feel like almost impossible to even grasp or fathom until you've experienced what naltrexone does to fix the brain. Like it basically puts the brain back to where it was before we ever had alcohol issues, where we didn't care about alcohol. We didn't think about it. We didn't need to drink after a long, stressful day. It just wasn't an issue. And to be in that place of freedom is just incredible.
Yeah, so amazing. I love what Curtis said here.
Yeah, go ahead, read it.
Yeah. So Curtis says, I too was able to leave my anxiety meds, benzos behind after 20 years. Congrats on that. I thought alcohol helped my anxiety when in reality, it was 100% the cause of my anxiety. Yeah, I see that often in clients. Just they're using alcohol but they think it's like medicating the anxiety, right? It's helping. And it kind of does briefly in the moment, right? It does provide some relief for anxiety, but it's actually increasing anxiety when not drinking, exponentially. So when when they start reducing, they notice pretty quickly that their anxiety also reduces.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's amazing what it does like for mental health. I mean, again, it's not an overnight thing. And even if you're drinking 70% less, you're probably still gonna have some dark days or emotional days. But over time, you just become I feel like I became my true self. Like I was always abandoning myself by getting drunk and just numbing. And like I never really like could trust myself or understood who I really was. And like the clarity that comes, and especially the clarity that, does not include craving alcohol or wishing I could drink and telling myself I can't drink, like all that mental chatter and chaos just like left. And so it was like this peaceful existence. It was incredible.
Yeah, and then I had to discover who I really was outside of alcohol. And I can tell you that the majority of that discovery process was after I reached extinction, aka I gained control over alcohol.
Yeah.
That was when I really had the mental ability to really just discover who I really am and what my true values are and the things that I love and the activities that I love to do. And yeah, it was who I was so intertwined with alcohol, because all of my adult life, that's what I did. That's what I turned to. That's was my best friend at times, and it was always there for me when I was anxious, when I was depressed, when I was lonely, when I was bored, when I was celebrating, when I was rewarding myself, when I was sad, when I was just doing the dishes. I wanted a glass of wine. So it's like so much was just intertwined with who I was, that now I had like a clean slate, and I could, because I didn't have any more cravings and I wasn't thinking about it anymore. So now who am I? And that's when that process started for me. Like the whole new world started to open up, and I was really enjoying little pleasures, like daily pleasures that I didn't notice before, because I was too busy thinking about when am I going to have my next drink, or what am I going to drink next, or what time am I going to start drinking, and like all these things. But that's all gone. Like you said, the mental chaos and chatter is all gone, and now it's like, wow, what is this life about now?
Yeah. So like what little pleasures did you start to enjoy? Like just so people understand, like, because I relate to that, where I was just appreciating this, like the really simple things in life that I completely ignored or just didn't appreciate before. It was like those simple joys. So what were some of the things for you?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think I started to notice the smell of the coffee when I would make my coffee in the morning, and the aroma in the French press of the coffee. I was like, oh, that's so delicious. And then when I would cook with herbs, I would like fresh herbs. I could smell the fresh herbs cooking in the pan. I was like, wow, and I would go outside on a walk, and I would actually take in the smells of the flowers and the things in the environment. And I was like, I've never noticed this before. Why? Because I was always like racing to my next drink.
Yeah. And numb from the alcohol.
Yeah. Or just trying to get over a hangover and trying to get through the day, or trying to recover so that I could feel better the next day. And so these little moments, and I started to notice that the activities that really brought me a lot of joy, like going on long walks and going to the lake and just sitting by the lake, and just quietly sitting, or playing with my dog, playing fetch with my dog, like just these activities that I just truly enjoyed.
Yeah. I feel like, we become less numb. We're not mentally preoccupied with drinking or recovering from drinking. And so we rediscover just these simple pleasures of life. And those are the things that really nourish the soul. Like, it sounds so cliche or cheesy, but it's like, you really like can be in the present moment and appreciate, like, oh my gosh, like, I love the smell of the garlic cooking in the pan, or my dog is so sweet. Like, you just get this like joy that comes because you're alive and you're grateful to be alive. And it's just a really beautiful part of this experience, I think.
Yeah, it is.
So Sadie has a question, and I really like what Minecraft's Last Green Man responded to.
Who is Josh? Hi,
Yes,
Josh.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Hi, Josh. Okay. So Sadie says, any advice for partners of someone who is struggling with alcohol use disorder or addiction? How can we help if that person isn't fully on board with TSM? So, partner of someone. So I'm wondering, actually, if I'm understanding this question correctly, like, are you the partner of someone who has alcohol use disorder and you want them to do TSM, but they aren't on board with it? I'm not, am I reading? Do you understand that question, Samara?
I think what Sadie's talking about is about like the lack of support from either a partner or a spouse or your loved one.
Okay.
Like, how do you deal with the lack of support when it comes to our loved ones and the people close to us in our lives? And I'm not sure, Sadie, if you are the partner, but it's tough. It's really it is a challenging situation. I want to validate you in that. It's challenging. I have clients who deal with that, and it's so much better when we can have like this person, our partner or our loved one, who is fully on board with what we're doing and is fully supportive of everything we're going to do and will be right there by our side. But some of us don't get that opportunity because the people in our life are not understanding, or they may be closed-minded to what this is, and they may just not want to learn about it, or it could be anything like that. And I had both sides. In my case, I had both types. I had people who eventually wanted to, well, my mother, who wanted to learn eventually. She didn't understand it quite at the beginning, and then she learned. And now she's like my biggest cheerleader. And then I had, I would call them naysayers. I had people who were close friends who were naysayers and who would speak negatively about what I was doing. And that was very almost traumatizing, I have to say, dealing with that. And thinking back, I would have done it differently. I wouldn't have told them what I was doing. I would have protected myself and the method that I was doing for myself, knowing that I knew what I knew, that the science is sound and that I'm going to do this. And, but I kind of opened my mouth to these people and told them things that they just didn't understand. And their hearts were in the right place, but they weren't supportive. And, I heard negative things, but, in the end, I win, right? in the end I won. But
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, that's, that's just my take on this, my 2 cents about telling who, protecting ourselves and the method that we're doing, and who we let into our circle to tell them about what we're doing, and who we don't, and being wise about our circle of, who we're going to tell. And when it comes to a partner who is someone close to us, a loved one, that is, again, it's so tricky because they are close to us. And we have to do what, ultimately we have to honor what we know is best for ourselves and our recovery and our healing. And we may have to do whatever it takes to honor that,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And just, I think, because she said correct. So I think like part of the question too is like she wants to like someone she loves has an alcohol addiction and she wants them to do TSM, but they're not on board with it themselves. So if
Mm.
that's your question, Sadie, I would be curious maybe why they're not on board with TSM. Like, do they not want to change their drinking at all? Do they believe that abstinence is the only way? Understanding why they're not supportive of the method, I would be curious to hear more about that. I've met a lot of people whose loved ones turned them on to the method and there was some resistance initially. So, I wonder, like Josh kind of spoke to, it's evidence-based. And so what's great about this treatment, what I loved about it is that there's literally decades of research to back it up. I mean, this book has a lot of the research in it, talks about why abstinence-based methods don't work for a lot of people due to the alcohol deprivation effect, and that's backed up by research. And then also why the Sinclair method is so effective at helping people cut back on their drinking. It's such a gentle treatment because the individual who's struggling doesn't have to quit drinking. They just have to start the medicine first. And that for me was like really gentle. You don't have to change much, like just start on the medicine. And then gradually, little by little, the person, for most of us, can, drink less and have fewer cravings and more control. So I would be curious if that's your question, why they're not on board with it. I don't know if you guys have watched the documentary, One Little Pill. There's been several articles about naltrexone recently. Of course, Claudia's TEDx talk, how she overcame alcoholism. I think just continuing to educate about the power and benefits of this method and the fact that it's super gentle and super effective can perhaps get them on board. And that's kind of a frustrating scenario. So I'm sorry to hear you're going through that.
Yeah,
Okay,
go
ahead.
I think I misread the question, but I'm glad that I touched on that because it's really important to talk
No,
about the support, right? Yeah.
well, and it's so common. Like we have people in our program, they haven't told anyone they're doing it, or some people whose family members know and they're not totally on board. So like both issues are very real for people that are watching this, whether watching now or after. Yeah, but like what you touched on, Samara, it's such a personal decision to go on this method, and we really have to be our own advocate.
Yes.
Because we know what's best for us. And yeah, our family members, if they've never struggled with an alcohol use disorder, it's hard for them to really comprehend like why quitting drinking, it isn't just like the right decision. Like it seems the logical choice, right?
Yeah.
Even me as someone who struggled, like, yeah, that's the logical choice, but the alcohol use disorder is not a logical issue. And if somebody can look into the alcohol deprivation effect, which for me was like so eye-opening to realize like quitting drinking or taking breaks from drinking isn't helping me. It's actually making me get deprived of alcohol, which is driving my craving up. And then that's why I keep returning to drinking couple months later, like why I can't stay sober. I know you went through that for years, in and out of AA.
Yeah, for 15 years I struggled, and I didn't even know that I was doing bouts of sobriety were causing my cravings to skyrocket.
Yeah.
And for 15 years I did that. And so towards the end of that period, my cravings were absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they were off the charts. My mouth would water. I just would have a physiological craving, in the body. And it was something that I could not could not stay away from temptation. Like it just, and I didn't even know I was causing that in my own life by being deprived every single time I would have a bout of sobriety. I would deprive myself over and over and over again. So I built those cravings over time.
Yeah. I know, like, because like that's something I would say most people with AUD don't realize. Like you and I certainly didn't, that like, because we approached it logically too. Oh, if I quit drinking or if I take this 30-day alcohol-free challenge, then I'll be able to control, or then I'll be able to moderate, or I'll be able to stay sober. And it's the reverse. It makes us want it more, and then we feel crazy because we keep returning to drinking again. And I see those posts in like Reddit or Facebook, like day one again. Why do I keep doing this? And I'm like gently trying to tell people, hey, have you heard about the Sinclair method? But there's this whole paradigm shift that needs to happen, because the idea that someone can still drink and can go on this safe, generic, inexpensive medication and it can help them get free from this, that's just like too much to comprehend for your average person. When we've been told abstinence is the only way, or moderate drinking isn't possible.
And even to that, I would say I was in a illusion that it was almost like an all or nothing kind of thinking, where I would get back on the saddle and I would do my green drinks and my healthy eating and my, keto, and I would do all this. And then I knew, but in the back of my mind, I knew that it was not sustainable, like that I would end up drinking eventually. And so it was like this kind of, I was tricking myself almost, where that I would get back on the saddle and this time it's going to work. This time it's for real, but then it wasn't. And I was breaking promises to myself, and that breaking promises caused me to have less confidence in myself and not trust myself that I could have progress in my life. And it just became this vicious cycle that completely got turned around when I developed a growth mindset through TSM.
Yep, exactly. Really well said. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I wanted to read Curtis's comment because it's just so encouraging. 5 months into TSM, it has also changed my life. Thank you both for continuing to get the word out and helping educate others how to change their lives. Well, congratulations, Curtis, on the life-changing benefits that have come from this method. It's incredibly life-changing for so many people. We see it every day. And Butch says, I'm thrilled about my results at TSM. The best way to reach more alcoholics would be to have a bumper sticker on my vehicle. That's a good idea. We have some like Sinclair Method apparel on our YouTube, but maybe if we can add bumper stickers, that would be kind of cool.
That is such a good idea. When I read that, I was like, that's amazing. Why didn't I think of that?
I know.
Bumper sticker.
That would be a fun way. I've thought about like putting some decals on my car or something, but I haven't done it yet. So thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone who joined and who is going to watch this afterward. It was so fun. Thank you, Samara, for being here to help me answer these questions. You guys were awesome. We'll hope to be back next month, assuming our schedules align. And if you guys are looking for support on the Sinclair Method, whether you're just starting or you've been on it for a while and you want to plug into support, I definitely encourage you to check out Thrive. We've recently made some changes to our program where we're now offering different levels of subscriptions, and they're monthly subscriptions, or you can sign up for a year. So I definitely encourage you to check out the program because we have so many resources and support and tools available really centered around this treatment. And Samara is definitely a core member of our team. So I appreciate everything you do for our members as well, Samara.
Thank you so much, Katie.
Yeah. Okay, guys, have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you